Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. This is Shiv, and today we're going to be doing some photography that involves some weeds, and the weeds that we are going to deal with today are nothing more than dandelions. Now, one of the things that happens in the spring is the dandelions sprout. They blossom into some wonderful yellow flowers, and then they go to seed. And what's interesting is that the seeds themselves have the dark seed, and then they have like a stem and like a whirly thing on top. Sometimes people refer to them as dandelion clocks, but they're all, just very photogenic if you can sort of position them properly, get some good focus, get some good light and color on them. They can be great. So today we're going to use two cameras. One camera, which is a Micro Four Thirds Panasonic Lumix G9 with a 45mm lens. And let me just show you what that is. So the G9 with a 45mm lens. And then what I have is two extension tubes, a 10mm and a 16mm extension tubes. And basically those are mounted between the camera body and the lens to allow me to focus even closer and thereby get some incremental magnification. Because the reason for requiring additional magnification is that these things are tiny, so we need to really focus in on them. Now, the camera is mounted on a macro focusing rail sitting on top of my usual Platypod system, which I find to be most convenient if I'm doing this type of close-up photography. The other camera that we're going to use is a full frame, and let me just pick that up and give you a visual of that camera. And this is the S1R. What I have is a set of bellows that is attached to the S1R via the Sigma MC21 Canon mount adapter. And then on the other end of the bellows, I have a 50mm Zeiss Distagon mounted in reverse. So 50mm reversed on the bellows. And I'm not going to use too much extension because just with this amount of distance between the camera body and the lens, I'm getting fairly decent magnification, so there's no point doing anything incremental. Now, the reason I'm doing this with the Lumix S1 and this type of additional contraptions is because at this particular juncture we don't have any native macro lenses. The closest one can get is the 24-105 f4, which is about a 0.5 macro. So in order to get a good amount of magnification, the best way is to rig up the 50mm in reverse on a set of bellows. So we're going to use both, and to do the setup, what I'm going to first take is get some dandelion seed pods. And I have a box of the dandelion seeds. I'm going to just take one. So here is, and I don't think, well, maybe you can see it, yes. So this tiny little seed pod, what I'm going to do is, and I'm going to just position it onto the blue tack. So what I have is some blue tack that is kind of adhered onto a petri dish, a plastic petri dish. And what I'm going to then do is fill the petri dish with some milk and water to give it a nice background. And we'll be doing more different images with more than one dandelion seed pod, and you'll get to see what some of those are. But before I do anything more, let me just get this camera properly lined up. All right, now that the camera is in position, the dandelion is in a decent position pretty centered, but that's okay. We're just doing this as a demonstration. We'll create more images later. What I'll do now is to just pour some milk and water into the Petri dish. And basically fill it up till it covers the blue tack. So now the blue tack won't be visible. And what I'm going to do is get a light on it with a colored gel. So let's just get that light positioned, and let's just turn it on. Just need to adjust the exposure a little bit. And this is the view that I have now of the Dandelion seed pod and the way the camera is set with the light. Now to get some more effect on this, what we need to do is to spray the fine filaments of the dandelion seed pod with some water droplets. So I'm going to spray some fairly generous amounts with each push of the plunger, and as you can see, one starts getting some pretty effective little water droplets that really look interesting, and particularly with the way the light starts refracting, one can get some really nice water drop images. Now, one of the things that I'd like to do here is to actually increase the depth of field by taking the camera to, I'd say, about f18, f20. And I know that diffraction is going to set in, but with the way we currently have this setup, the diffraction isn't going to be that bothersome. So here is the settings now with f20. The shutter speed is 1/13 of a second, and I can grab this image. All right, so that's one example of how to do this. Now, as I mentioned before, at f20, the diffraction is going to play a role, even though it may not appear that significant. So what we can do with the Panasonic G9 and even with the S1, as long as the lens is capable of autofocus, we can set this camera to do what's known as post-focus. And using post-focus, where the camera will focus from the frontmost area of contrast to the rearmost area of contrast, and then combine the images internally, you will get an image that is sharp from front to back, but at a much lower f-stop, because you don't need f20 to do that type of stack photography. So the best is to use an aperture that is the sweet spot of your lens. And in this particular case with the 45mm, the sweet spot that I found is about f5.6. All right, so that's this setup. Now, I'm going to take some images and you'll see a replay of some of the images that I photographed, but we're going to leave exactly this setup here and use the other camera, and just to show you the kind of magnification one can get using a full frame to do the same kind of photography. done is I've mounted the Lumix S1R, which is a 48 megapixel camera, on the same macro focusing rail. Let me just show that to you. So what I have is the camera, the bellows, the reverse lens, all set up, and let me give you the view that the camera is seeing. I need to move the focusing rail to bring the subject into proper focus. So let me just do that. And now I can take this image. So with setups like this, you can create some very interesting imagery. You can put 2 dandelion seeds together, you can put 3, spray them, add different colors to your setup. Just to show you an example, while we have this over here before I close this particular setup out, I'm just going to add some light which has got a red gel on it, and show you what the effect can be with a red gel. This is the gel basically is allowing me to cast light on just the dandelion itself. I can move it and have the water drops reflect the red while the background remains green, and so on. So you can do all kinds of things. If you don't want to use red, you can use blue, you can use any color you want. In addition, if you just put some white light, and of course the exposure is way too high, so let's get that exposure down. So that can give you some really interesting effects with just white light. Just use a single light from low front, pointing a little up into, and there we go. So this gives you something that you can play with, while you're sitting at home, still in a lockdown state. are some things that you can do. Play around with what's out there in your garden. It's just dandelions. It's fun. You can not killing anything that's important, and makes for some interesting photography. So, play with it, experiment with lights, experiment with depth of field, and and just enjoy yourself and make some images. Some of them will come out great. Some of them may not, but doesn't make a difference. At least you're enjoying yourself. So with that, thank you so much for watching. If this has been of some help, give me a thumbs up. And with that, I wish you, all the best, and stay well, be safe. Do please subscribe to my channel. I'd love to, have my subscriptions go up, and do also hit that notification button so you get notified of future episodes. And do please let me know if there's something that you'd like me to create. I'd love to do that for you. So take care, and we'll see you the next time.